going to show you how to hand toss a pizza. Starting off, we have our tools. A dough scraper, our bowl of flour, which is a 50-50 mixture of semolina flour and pizza flour. The reason why we mix it 50-50 is because we need a dusting agent when we hand slap the dough, and also the semolina is a little heavier than the regular pizza flour, therefore it doesn't fly everywhere and get into the electronics of the computers then. Okay, we have our dough, we have our flour, and we have our hex sticks. I'm going to show you how to do an original pizza crust. Your dough should always be covered. The air dries it out. You'll have a skin on it. First things first, is a little bit of flour on your dough balls to help take them out of the dough tray. Now you notice there are a couple holes there. I just pinched them closed. If you leave the holes there and you try and slap it out, by the time you get it out to the screen, you're going to have a big hole in it. You're going to have a thin spot. It's not going to cook properly. Take your dough ball, keep it as nice and round as possible, flour it up. Now you're ready to start. You notice there's a top and the bottom of the dough. The dough tops ends up being the bottom of your pizza crust. I'll explain why in a minute. So first things first, you want to define your crust edge. For an original hand-tossed crust, you want a thumbnail or so of dough around the edge. And as you push around, you'll notice that the underneath of the dough ball is coming up and just being tucked in. The reason why you want to do that is that this is nice and tender dough, and when it bakes up, it's going to bake up crisp and tasty rather than chewy and tough. So here I've defined my crust edge, keeping your dough ball round. A little bubble, just pinch it to pop it. Next you want to start to push the dough out. Now you work from just off center out. Almost like your fingers are a little army and they're advancing on the dough. As you push the dough out this way, you're going to hear bubbles pop. You're going to hear the air in the dough being pushed out. This is a good thing. You don't want too many bubbles in the dough, big bubbles, as you cook it. And notice I purposely stayed away from my center. It's because when you start stretching it out, your center will naturally come even out. Next, I've got it at this point here, which is approximately 60% of the size of its finished size. Next, we turn it over. And again, I explained a little bit before that we have a top and a bottom. Bottom is now facing upwards, and you can still see your defined edge once you've flipped it over. This next technique is called edge stretching. Everybody does it just a little bit differently. Depends if you're right-handed or left-handed. Depends on which you're more comfortable with. One hand is a guide, and it guides along the inside edge of that crust that you formed on the other side. And the other side is just a gentle stretch. It's almost like you're doing a tiny little wave. Hi. You push it out, stretch it out. Again, stay away from your center, only work your edges. At this point, you've already got the dough patty approximately 90% of its size, 95% of its size. This next technique is the actual tossing. remember which side is going to be the top and which side is going to be your bottom. If you forget, you can easily check. Your bottom is always going to have a slight skin on it because it was exposed to the air in the dough tray. This next technique is hand tossing. You notice I am flipping the dough back and forth, doing a quarter turn on my arm as I'm working it. Again, I'm not touching the center. So I have which was the top of the dough ball, which now becomes the bottom of the crust. Slap it down on my hex disc. Work it into place. If your dough is now too big for your hex disc, you can just simply push it in and drop it right on the hex disc. The dough will shrink back to the proper size. Most important when you're putting the dough on the hex disc is that you don't have any holes showing through. You don't want an 11 and 3/4 inch pizza. You want it to be the 12-inch pizza because when it comes out fully baked and it's in the box, if it's like this, it's going to look like a small pizza in the box. We want to make sure that customers get their value and that 12-inch pizza is truly a 12-inch pizza. And this is how you slap an original crust pan-tossed pizza.